What's going on, everybody? It's College Football Week 12. My name's DollaBill. Welcome to the SHIPIT Nation College Football Show. I'm definitely ready to get to College Football Week 12. Last week was not great for me, college football. But you know what? NFL was a lot better. So last weekend was the exact definition of you win some, you lose some. So that's what DFS is. Manage your bankroll well. You're going to get a hit every now and again. And as long as you can handle the losses, you're in pretty good shape. So we're still here. We're still smiling, and we're ready for another week of college football. Before we dive into the slate, just a reminder that we're still pushing to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, getting very close. And that's something that you can do for free that helps us. All of our shows are not behind a paywall. We put them up for free on YouTube. So it helps us out a lot if you like and subscribe. So like this video, subscribe to the channel. That way we can keep providing this free content because we love doing it. We enjoy sharing all of this with the public. So, keep that in mind if you're questioning, if you're on the fence about, do I click subscribe or not? Well, guess what? You're watching, so you're probably going to get the push notifications anyway. You might as well subscribe. And if you do, you're going to help us get to 10K, and then we'll have a big celebration. And, we have something special planned once we do get to 10,000. So you're going to want to be a part of that. We're just going to jump right into the slate. Off the bat, pretty important game. We have Tulane and Navy. Tulane, they want to show that they should be the G5 team in the college football playoff, regardless of what Boise or anybody else does. And Tulane actually looks pretty good in this spot. Darian Mensah is 5,800. He's too cheap. He's had an up and down season from a DFS perspective. Lately it's been every other game. So maybe this game will be the big one because on his pattern, last week was a down week for him. This week should be better. But what we're really looking at here is Mekhi Hughes. 7,600 is still too cheap for the work that he's getting. Shady Clayton Johnson had, he got hit pretty hard in his last game, and he's questionable coming in. So not that he's in play or out of play, whether he plays or not, but it's going to just funnel more usage to Hughes. Barnes does get involved a little bit, but I'm not really concerned about that when it comes to Hughes. And then Mario Williams, 3,900. Even if he's underpriced. Even if he has down games, his last two games are 13.5 and 15.5. Now those aren't stellar for when he was priced in the 6Ks, but at 3,900, what maybe the first thing I noticed when I was looking through the entire slate when it was released, and there might be concerns. Oh, you playing on the road at Navy? Navy's a slow academy school. Yes, Navy is 132nd in offensive pace. However, they allow 71 plays per game, which is 98th. Now, 98th being they allow almost the most point, or, if you reverse it, minus 134, however many team there is not good. Not good for your defense to give up that many opportunities per game. So if Tulane can get out and run their offense, they're going to have opportunity to do so. On the other side, Navy, it's just Horvath and Heidenreich. And Horvath is a little bit expensive, but Tulane gave up 4 yards a carry, more than 4 yards a carry to Rice. They gave up more than 5 yards a carry to Charlotte. Temple even ran the ball on them. And if you know anything about college football, Temple shouldn't be able to do that. But so Horvath running quarterback, and he can throw. He can throw some too. And Eli Heidenreich is a beneficiary. Yes, he doesn't get the carries at Texas or Chapman or Fafana. Those guys, Heidenreich's not the carries guy, like the workhorse or anything like that. Obviously, there's no workhorse in Navy, but Heidenreich does get the targets. Navy throws the ball 14 times a game, and 33% of them go to Heidenreich. So that's what you're looking at if you do want to stack this game. The total's not bad. So it's not the worst stack in the world. If you wanted to do a Horvath Heidenreich and run it back with pieces here, Tulane's just cheap enough. Even Dante Fleming. He's going to be on the field. Why wouldn't you find the extra 600 for Williams? But Fleming's capable of a spike game as well. Moving on to Texas, Arkansas, which maybe a blowout, maybe not. I guess we'll kind of see. Texas at this point controls their own destiny. Quinn Ewers had the blow-up game last week. It was pretty easy for him. There wasn't really much resistance last week. So, but he took care of business. He did what he needed to do. He paid off. I'll give it to him. Not going to apologize yet. I got to see it more than once, but he did all right. This backfield though, Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner, for their fantasy box score is pretty good, but their fairly disappointing. Like Trey Wisner was super high on everybody's list last week. We had a big discussion at SHIPIT and even mentioned here on this video last week, if you watched, the rotation can change at any time. It doesn't take much for Trey to get taken out of the game and Blue to get put in. Gibson actually had the most carries out of all of them. Granted, it was a lot in the second half, but he was even in on the second drive of the game. So really tough to play any of these guys in the 5K range with the rotation. Wide receivers, again, it's the same sort of thing. You were spread out the ball quite a bit last week. It was good to see Bond get some targets and a touchdown in his first game back, but again, he's in that mid-range. Gunnar Helm's probably the safest. At 3,100, just at that price tag. DeAndre Moore's been getting increased usage ever since Cook got kicked off the team. He's running from the slot. Wingo, the freshman, always a threat. Golden obviously had 2 touchdowns. So it feels like with a 35-point team total, you should be able to do something here. It's just kind of hard to pinpoint exactly how you want to do it. If you're going to stack Ewers, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he takes 2 guys with him at those prices. So that is something I don't mind. On the Arkansas side, we got probables all around. Taylor Green, Jaquindon Jackson, and Braylon Russell are all probable. But man, 8,200 for Taylor Green and 7,200 for Jaquindon Jackson in this matchup. It's going to be tough to click. Again, not that they can't get there, but as we go through, look at why not pay 400 more for Hughes. There's going to be some plays later on in this slate. You'll understand why it's more difficult to play Arkansas. Not to say that you can't. Armstrong's probably my favorite play just because he's a target machine. He's the usage guy. With Jackson being his first game back, maybe DeBinion and Russell still take away from him, especially since they performed well while he was out. And I just want to mention Tyrone Broden, one of the highest snap count guys on the slate, but a 30 and targets too, even honestly, for Arkansas, but he has a 36% catch rate. I just thought that's kind of funny. Speaking of something that's not funny, let's talk about Utah. All right, I'm just going to get everything out of the way. If you haven't been paying attention to Utah these past couple of days, past week or so, buckle up. Brant Keithy's out for the season. Money Parks is out for the season. Micah Pittman, no longer with the team. Jalen Glover entered the transfer portal. And then at the quarterback position, Brandon Rose's mom announced that he has a Liz Frank injury. He had a torn ligament in his foot, so he's going to be out. And speaking of players' moms, Zach Wilson is his brother. He's going to play for Utah. I did not. That joke played out so well in my head. Speaking of moms, Zach Wilson's brother is starting for Utah. Could have been a lot better. Not well executed on my part, just like Utah has not been executing this season very well. Hey, that one was natural. That one was a lot better, you have to admit. Isaac Wilson, though, I mean, he's fine. 7,200. I don't like this matchup on the road very much. But whatever. He started 5 games, so he has the experience. Micah Bernard, one of the constants in this offense throughout the entire season, about as constant as you can get with Utah. 7,100 is a tough price to pay in a road game against a team who controls its own destiny in the college football playoff. Not the worst, not the best. Pretty expensive for my taste. Dorian Singer is the one guy that I'm really looking at here just because who's left? He's been getting targets all season. Doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. His 17 target game was actually with Wilson at the helm. So, I don't mind taking a shot at him at 5,100. He's about toward the top of where I like to pay in a lot of my contests for wide receiver, unless there's like a huge standout that's more expensive. But he's not, he's in a decent spot here. Other starters, according to the depth chart, which if you know Kyle Whittingham means almost nothing. Manir McLean, and then Zacharias Williams. So I don't know. We could see Damian Alford, who ginormous dude from Syracuse, but hasn't really seen the field this year. Dydron Zipperer, Trayshawn Lyons, Carson Ryan. I mean, Caleb Lohner is probably my favorite because he played basketball at Baylor last year and now he's playing football at Utah. But you know what? Whatever. I mean, Williams is a 3-star true freshman, so maybe they'll want to get him the ball. But I've already talked way too much about Utah's side. It's just it's chaotic, is what it is. On the Colorado side, I still have a strong feeling that Deion is trying to get both Shadur and Travis Hunter to the Heisman ceremony. Travis Hunter's pretty much locked in his spot already as long as even if he doesn't stay healthy, he's got to be in consideration, right? As far as what he's done this season. Shadur at 9,700, not afraid of that in this game environment. I think they're going to probably score more than 28 points. Yes, that's the one thing. Utah's defense is still intact. However, they're one of the worst tackling teams in college football as far as grades go on Pro Football Focus. So that's something that's kind of bringing me back to Augusta at 3,600. Didn't quite have the 22 carry game that we had a couple weeks ago last week, but he still had double-digit carries. There's still opportunity there. But really, you're looking at Shedeur and picking one of these wide receivers. Jimmy Horn left last week. Rumor is they were throwing tortillas on the field, and he slipped on one. I have no idea if that's true or not, but there's so much there's crap like that in college football. It's funny, but not funny that he got hurt, obviously. But if that's the case, Will Shepherd is sub 4K, and he's going to get a lot of looks if Horn is out. Even if Horn's in any of these four guys, it could be Hunter, expensive, but we know who he is. Wester is kind of in that mid-range. We know who he is. Like, any of these guys can pay off. So I don't mind the Colorado stack, even if you decide to do one-sided. I know 28 is not a lot of points, but fantasy-wise, they've been pretty good throughout the season. Speaking of pretty good throughout the season, Clemson, another team that needs to win. I don't know what the tiebreakers are in the college football playoff, but I mean, they could still win if they get to the ACC championship. You know what? I don't care, but just keep winning. I don't want to deal with all that drama. Just keep winning, and then we don't have to figure out tiebreakers, hopefully, but maybe we will. Cade Klubnik, 8,600, probably still too cheap for him. We know he has the upside. He could get to 30 points, no problem, depending on how the game goes. Like, there's a few weeks ago that they were up by 4 scores, and he was still throwing the ball to get to 300 yards. So Phil Maffa, continuously underpriced by DraftKings, 7,300 for his workload. It just doesn't make sense. So he's going to be on, I'm going to have my sights on him. And then the wide receiver core is a little bit interesting. Antonio Williams is still the number one, it seems like. And he's priced like it. I mean, compared to the rest of his teammates, probably not expensive enough for a number one wide receiver on Clemson. TJ Moore has been getting a lot more action lately. The last 3 games, Bryant Wesco came back, had the big 12 target game, but then last week only had 5 targets and caught 1 of them. Jake Brenningstool, constant tight end, always going to get a look. And these guys behind Williams are all cheap. One thing that I did notice is that Adam Randall only played 3 snaps against Virginia Tech. He had been getting 30 to 40. Cole Turner took some of those snaps, got that increase, but I do think Moore is just going to funnel to those top 4 guys if you're looking at Clemson. Really those top 4 receivers, Maffa, Klubnik, any combination of those guys is great if you're stacking the Clemson side. On the Pittsburgh side, I know they're at home, but Utah is a mess. These guys are just, at least Utah told us what was going on, right? That's usually not what we get from the Utes, and I'm going to eat my words when all of this is incorrect come Saturday, but we don't know what's going on with Pittsburgh. Holstein, he has been replaced by Yarnell in 3 straight games. 2 of them were for sure for injury. The third one, I don't know if he just stunk or if he was actually hurt. But we could see either or at this point. We might not know until Saturday. Luckily, it's in the early set of games, so we'll figure that out. In the running back room, Desmond Reed is just a shell of what he was earlier this season. And honestly, I think partially it's because they've been shuffling so much on the offensive line that he just might not have the opportunity to get those big plays that he was cashing in on earlier in the season. So it's 9,600. Go ahead and give it a shot if you want to. We have seen a little bit of running success against Clemson here and there, but that's not my cup of tea. Rodney Hammond, there's a good chance he doesn't play the rest of the season because he can still redshirt. Since he was suspended at the beginning of the season, or suspended, ineligible, whatever, he still only played in 4 games this year. Kanata Mumfeld took a big hit last game, so he's questionable. Again, we'll figure it out hopefully before kickoff. If not, take a shot on one of these guys if you want to. They're all super cheap if you did want to have any sort of run back with your Clemson stacks. But Pittsburgh has fallen off. Maybe some paper Tigers earlier in this season, paper Panthers. All right, that's all we're going to say about Pittsburgh. But watch news. Join the SHIPIT Discord. We're all over news on Saturday mornings. We'll talk more about joining SHIPIT later. Promise. Got a surprise for you. Syracuse of California, 9.5 point team spread. Triple time zone travel for the Orange. But maybe the biggest news for Syracuse is that Fran Brown doesn't shower after the team loses. He says the team lost. I don't deserve soap, but it's gross. I mean, it's just gross. I know he's a coach, so he's not like playing in the game and getting that sweaty, but I'm sweating standing here. He's moving around on the field, and he's going to California. I know that Berkeley's not like San Diego or LA, but I don't know. I'm cheering for California to beat the hell out of him just so he has to have that, 4.5-hour plane ride or whatever it is home from Berkeley. Anyway, Kyle McCord in the 9Ks. If you're paying up a quarterback, he's definitely not a bad option, especially if they're going to need to chuck it around. They are a heavy pass team. That's still, even though they're a very heavy pass team, like I'll look it up. A lot of their production comes from the pass. It's like 80-20. It's insane. But LaQuint Allen is still in play because he gets 20 touches on the ground. It doesn't matter if he averages 3 yards a carry. But he's also getting like 5 to 7 targets over the last few games. So that's something you're going to look at. But then when you're looking at these wide receivers, these top 3 guys are the ones you're really looking at the last 3 games. Pena's had 8, 9, and 7 targets. Meeks has had 8, 9, and 11. Gadsden, 12, 4, and 7. So those are the main guys. Ross Simmons, good for a big play here and there. He had the big game a couple of weeks ago when he had 2 touchdowns. But really these top 3 guys, Allen and McCord, are where you're looking on Syracuse, especially if you've seen Willis can't go. Will Nixon should have a little red thing next to him. He's not going to play. Fernando Mendoza for California, just been on a tear lately. He's hit 30s on DK in 2 straight games, and they only price him up to 7,200. So in this sort of game script, he's going to run. He's got new toys to play with in the wide receiver core. I don't know why you wouldn't give him a look at 7,200, at least include him in your pool. I think he's viable in all formats personally. Jaden Knott and Jaden Thomas, man, Jaden Knott is going to pop one of these games, right? You'd think. I don't know. We haven't seen it yet. It's one of those things where it's really hard to pull the trigger until you see it because he just hasn't looked right. But man, he was like, you play him at 9,500 to 10,000 last year was how good he was. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward. If there ever was going to be a game to do it, this would be it. They're at home. Syracuse is traveling. Syracuse just gave up 313 yards on the ground and 249 yards on the ground. So, I mean, it's a good game script if this can be the game you pop. And I bet his ownership comes in super low if you want the leverage. But where I'm looking at this game is Tobias Merriweather. The Notre Dame transfer finally saw the field, and he's still sub 5K. He had 10 targets last week, 6 catches, and he scored. And like if he's instantly Mendoza's favorite target, all in sub 5K. Jack Endries, even though Corey Dyches was back, Endries still got more snaps, still got the target. They talked about on the broadcast how Mendoza and Endries are roommates. I apologize for not learning that earlier, so I could share that information with you before Endries blew up. But it's Merriweather and Endries. Grays, he saw the field. He only ran 7 routes, but he got targets on 2 of them. So they made it a point to get him the ball. So if he's healthier this week and he sees the field a little more, he's not bad. But this is actually a pretty stackable game. If you just look at the options, the target share that these 3 receivers get, LaQuint Allen is so involved in the offense. McCord expensive, yes, but if you don't want the McCord, you can take a quarterback on the other side of the game for a big discount. And then these wide receivers, these top 2 for sure. And like throw a dart at Grays, throw a dart. Hunter was wide receiver 1 2 weeks ago. So don't mind it at all. And I'm always a fan of, the home team in the triple time zone travel. LSU in Florida. Speaking of teams that are a mess, LSU, I mean, are their playoff hopes dashed? You would think so. It's got to be a long shot at this point. I know they do need to win, though. Like, if they want any sort of shot, they have to win and hope for crazy things to happen elsewhere. Nussmeier, a couple $100 cheaper than McCord. Similar spot. You'd think, like, I don't mind Nussmeier at this price. He had a bad game. Had a bad game at Arkansas earlier this season and bounced back as well. So, why not? Why not the bounce back here too? And good passing teams can throw on Florida. They haven't played a ton of passing teams, but when teams throw on them, they can get to them. Caden Durham, he has been the guy. Josh Williams actually outsnapped him 38-20 last game, but I don't know if that was because of the blowout or if there was something else going on. But the way they're priced, it's a little bit tough. I'd rather attack Florida through the air again. Kyron Lacey's still the guy, still the target guy. Aaron Anderson, always good for a big play, getting a discount from Lacey. Mason Taylor, tight end, 3,500. I mean, he's one of the more NFL-ready tight ends in college football. So, if he can get the attention. And then CJ Daniels, probably should also have a little red thing by his name, but he's probable. So he's definitely more in line to play than some of these other guys with red next to their name, like, oh, look at Montrell Johnson. On the other side of this game, Lagway is going to start, but it was a hamstring injury. So if it immobilizes him in any way, even at 5,400, it's a tough pill to swallow. LSU's defense, man, you can get to them on the ground. Now, the one thing I will say is these last 2 games, Milroe and the surprise Marcel Reed might have been what got to him. But, if Florida can find something with their running game, Jaden Baugh and Jacoby Jackson have done really good. They've done really well with no Montrell Johnson, but you got to think, like, if Montrell gets in, it's going to be a 3-headed monster at best. If not Montrell and one of these other guys, if we get word early that Montrell's out, I don't mind taking a shot on one of these 2 running backs. They're too cheap for the work they've been putting in. They both had 19 carries last week. Yes, it was a weird game. They didn't have a quarterback who could really do anything. So take that for what you will, but it's worth a shot. Elijah Badger's going to play again. I don't know what DJ Lagway we're going to get, or if he's going to be able to even make it the whole game. You'd hope that they wouldn't put him out there if he wasn't healthy. But it's tough. Mizell, fine. DK, fine. Badger, honestly, why if he's 4K and the rest of his teammates are 3K? Really mostly looking at the LSU side, but the way this Montrell Johnson thing, falls into place, maybe could talk me onto this running game a little bit. Boston College at SMU, big spread, small total for Boston College. Another team that's kind of in shambles. I didn't think this team was too much in shambles. I know there's a Castellanos news earlier in the week, but then I started reading into it. I'm like, oh, there's some more guys that just randomly didn't play. Talk about that a little bit. But Grayson James is going to start. We saw him for a few plays last week. He threw 6 passes. Didn't look bad. But it's really hard to get a feel for how he's going to fit into this Bill O'Brien offense. I know he's played before he transferred in, but not in this kind of offense with Bill O'Brien. So it'll be interesting. Trayshawn Ward played 5 snaps last week. Didn't get a touch. Kai Robichaud, Jordan McDonald had a big game. It was very fun for all of us who had Ward and just watched Robichaud, McDonald, body blow, go for the knockout. Turbo Richard, honestly, he could play. If he plays, what does that do to McDonald? What does that do to all of these running backs? It's nearly an untouchable backfield in this game script. Lewis Bond is the one guy maybe you can look at. He's still getting the targets. He had a score last week. But really, do we know what Grayson James is going to look like with a full game, with a full week of practice? Is Bond going to be his favorite? I don't know. So it's tougher that way, but the game script and Bond's target share does appeal to me. Jaden Skeet and Jaron Brantley just didn't play last week, so they got the injury tag this week. So I don't know. Bond is probably all I'm looking at, unless you want to get some real greasy MMEs. Kevin Jennings on the SMU side, all he does is win games. I mean, he's a dual threat. We know what we're going to get. He's got a safe floor in the low 20s, you think, and 30 to 40 point, honestly 30 to 40 point upside in this sort of game script. It really just depends on how much it goes through him and how much it goes through Bashard Smith, because Bashard Smith has had 20 plus carries the last 2. Before that he had a random game where he had 8, but it doesn't, please don't be the typical SMU backfield where you get 20 carries 6. That's all we want from you, SMU. You're winning games. Just stick with your horses. It's not a Mustang joke, but now it is. In the wide receiver core, Roderick Daniels, sub 4K guy who's getting the most looks. He was running the ball a little bit more for a couple of games, not doing that as much lately. The one thing, Hibner had the big week last week, but he had 80 yards of it and a touchdown late in the game on one play. Jake Bailey missed. He could be back. That would throw a wrench into everything. But it's, Daniels and Smith, maybe Bailey. You could take a shot on any of these guys, honestly, and not feel great, but feel like maybe it could happen. Really mostly looking at the LSU side, maybe a little bit of Bond in Boston College. Louisville at Stanford. Louisville is a 20-point favorite. They have a triple time zone travel too, but Louisville is a significantly better team than Stanford. So a letdown, I think, would be like a touchdown win. Maybe not necessarily getting upset, but who knows? It's college football. We love college football for that reason. Tyler Shucks priced appropriately, I think. Decent spot, kind of in the maybe not zone. Isaac Brown is underpriced for his workload. There's no reason. This is a prime matchup for him. I'm not concerned with him at all after what we've seen over these past few weeks against a team like Stanford anyway. Ja'Cory Brooks is still the top guy. Redmond is getting more involved lately. Bell is still out there. Amari Huggins-Bruce is the clear next guy. After that, it kind of falls off. I mean, we had Kataris Hicks and Chris Hughes sightings last week, so that just tells you everything you need to know about the wide receiver core. You're really mostly looking at Brown and these top few wide receivers. Maybe Shuck if you wanted to stack. On the Stanford side, Ashton Daniels, Justin Lamson, flip a coin. Both of them played. They've been splitting. Both of them scored last week. Both of them actually had decent fantasy days, so maybe double stack a quarterback? No. But really, it's tough to play either when you don't know what that rotation is going to be. Daniels, the upside is there. We know the rushing quarterbacks against Louisville is a thing, but I don't know. I don't think you can touch him unless we get some sort of word beforehand. Micah Ford missed last game. This Cole Tab, he's a true freshman, 4-star, played really, really well in absence of Ford, but it's another situation where when are we going to find out this news? If Ford is back, is he instantly going to be the number one? Cole Tab has been priced. Terrible, terrible game script. Not a good matchup, but if you get a min-price running back who's going to get the volume, whatever. Elik Ayamanor is probably going to be the only guy I really look at Stanford because he still gets the target share. Emmett Mosley had his opportunity, had a 10-target game, and had 3 drops. So, and again, Jackson Harris made the list. That tells you everything you need to know about Stanford. It's pretty much Ayamanor or bust for me in this game. These last few games, we don't really need to talk about much. Virginia at Notre Dame, 23.5-point spread. I don't know who you play from Virginia. Malachi Fields is too expensive. Chris Tyree is back and, muddling up that wide receiver core. Calandria is like your only hope, but 6,700. I mean, why not play Mensa for $900 cheaper in a better game script? I mean, Calandria is one of those guys that you could get a whoopsie-daisy touchdown, but think about what you really need from him. On the other side, Riley Leonard, even at 9,500, maybe one of the best quarterbacks on the entire slate. Yes, it's expensive, and we've had some success the past few weeks paying down a quarterback, but if I were to pay up, Riley Leonard's definitely one of the guys on my list. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, priced right, both of them. You don't know which one you're going to get. Either one of them could go for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if you want to take a shot on either, don't mind it. I'm definitely not those guys that I really want to lock in. Bo Collins would be the guy in the wide receiver room, but Faison's getting more involved. Greathouse is, implementing himself as a good option for Leonard. So again, one of those you can stack with them because they're cheap, but Leonard, you can play naked as well. You can play Leonard naked in this entire game, even with a 37-point team total, just because it's a little bit more unknown where it's going to go. Penn State to Purdue, big spread, big total for Penn State, the biggest total on the slate for one team. Drew Aller at 7,000. I rarely play Drew Aller in daily fantasy ever. But at 7,000 with this team total, he can get 21 points and get you that 3x. I don't mind it. The only concern I have is that he has been banged up. So there's a chance that in this kind of matchup, they really limit him. Like, hey, we're going to send you out there for a quarter, get us up by 2 or 3 scores. And then, Bo's going to go in and run all over the place and tilt anybody who plays Penn State when Pribula is the leading rusher. And I say that because Katron Allen at 4,900, if Singleton can't go, he left the last game early. He has been a full participant in practice, but there's a chance he doesn't go. Again, a matchup thing. Why not save your horses against Purdue? Katron Allen, if he got 20 carries last week, and if he's going to get that many touches at 4,900 on a team that's a 29-point favorite, sign me up. 200 yards and 3 touchdowns is not out of the realm of possibility. And if you don't have him, you're dead in the water, at least in the cash streets especially. And then Tyler Warren, if Singleton can't go and Allen and Pribula aren't getting the rushing touchdowns, even Warren could get a rushing touchdown, and he's a top target for Penn State. Harrison Wallace is super cheap. He's actually half the price of Warren, but he's just a little bit more volatile. And then after that, you're throwing darts. But Allen is another guy who really stuck out to me, especially if Singleton can't go. Again, a late game, we might not get news, but might even be worth a shot if Singleton goes, quite honestly. On the Purdue side, deal? Okay. All right. Sorry if you wanted more Purdue news. I can't play any of them. CJ Smith transfer from Georgia. There you go. Baylor at West Virginia. Tight spread, high total. Gotta love this game. Sawyer Robertson has the upside for sure. Even though they finally priced him up. They priced him up well. That's good. Bryson Washington just had a 50 burger, had 10 carries 3 games ago, then 17, then 26 most recently. Dominic Richardson left the team, which definitely helps solidify this backfield for a tighter rotation. And Washington's been the guy that's benefited the most. So I love him at 6,400. He's probably too cheap if he's the true workhorse, especially in a game script where Baylor is projected to win. And then take a pick of these wide receivers. Cameron and Hawkins are probably the top 2 options. Presley is still in the mix quite a bit. Trigg is still in the mix as a tight end quite a bit. I love all of these guys as far as their pricing versus their upside. It's just a matter of picking which one it's going to be. On the West Virginia side, Garrett Green and Hudson Clement, who should be here somewhere, but he's not. Hudson Clement will play. Well, he's on track to play. I shouldn't say will play. Nothing is positive in college football, but Hudson Clement should be back. So that would nerf anybody who you see on the screen. But Garrett Green is going to be back as well. And he's too cheap for what he does. You got to imagine they wouldn't put him out there if he wasn't 100%. So Green is going to be at least on my radar in this game. Jaheim White, CJ Donaldson. This might be the cheapest I've ever seen CJ Donaldson. So, again, not my favorite plays, but definitely going to get some attention. And like I said, Hudson Clement is going to be all right. Traylon Ray kind of takes a hit, but he's been pretty steady all year, at least not like super, super up and down. It's just tough to pull the trigger on any of these wide receivers for West Virginia. But I'd rather just try one of these receivers on Baylor who we've actually seen it from a little bit more consistently, even though it's still a rotation. Then the last game of the slate, Nebraska at USC, 9-point spread, 51-point total. Dylan Raiola, he's not in the 4,000s anymore. This is a good matchup for him, but it's still difficult. You still need to see it from him first, right? I don't know. I don't know what you can do. Dante Dowdle, he was the workhorse last game. But basically the way Nebraska's been running is that if the first guy who goes out doesn't get a spark right away, they'll try the second guy. So if Dowdle doesn't get the spark, we're going to move on to one of the Johnsons. If one of the Johnsons doesn't have a spark, we'll find the other Johnson. And maybe we'll go back to Dowdle. Maybe we'll try Gabe Irvin. I don't know. But if we knew Dowdle was going to get the carries he got last game, sure, let's do it. Let's pull the trigger at 4,200. The wide receivers, I don't know. They're getting Barney more involved and Banks a little bit less involved. Nayer's still the number 1 guy. Again, they're just value. Maybe if you wanted a piece of this Nebraska team, that's where you could look, either Dowdle or one of these cheap wide receivers. On the USC side, Jaden Maiev is going to start the UNLV transfer. We just don't know what he's going to be in this offense necessarily. He was solid. He's dual threat quarterback, super high upside, a lot of potential here. But we'll just have to see it first. In this game script, Nebraska did them. Like, they shut down Ohio State pretty good. So that's tough. Woody Marks, 8,500, probably priced right. Again, seemingly a tough matchup, but we'll see how motivated Nebraska is to play. They can still make a bowl. So it'd be the first bowl in quite a few years. So Woody Marks, don't mind a look at him. He gets involved in the pass game. He's actually had quite a few targets the last few games. Just expensive if that's, if you want to pay up at running back in one spot, and he might get a look for you. Mekhi Lemon continues to see the targets. He's averaging 8 targets a game over the last 4. He's not getting the snaps that Zachariah Branch is, but he's getting the targets. And Branch actually played 62 snaps last game and finally 8 targets and had his first 100-yard receiving game of the season. He doesn't have a touchdown. You got to imagine that variance is going to come for him, especially after the way Branch was last year, where all you got was touchdowns. But it's still pretty spread out after that. 5 targets for Hudson, 5 targets for Lane, 5 targets for Robinson. I don't know. That might not be 100% accurate, but I went through these USC wide receivers, and it was after Lemon and Branch, it was 5, 5, 5, 5. So, I don't mind it. If you want to take a shot on Maeva with Lemon, Maeva with Branch, Maeva with both, I don't know if I do both, but you can. Why not? Hey, take a shot. Get yourself a little bit different. That's how you win GPPs. If you think this is the Stone, by the way, the Stone College Football Saturday. It's the greatest tool in college football across the industry. If you think it's boring and blank and bland, this is what it actually looks like. This is from a couple of weeks ago. Navy and Tulane. Look at that. They're playing each other. They were very close before. This is a couple weeks ago. What it does is we label the cash plays, the high upside plays, the GPP plays, what type of game environment it's going to be, anybody with injury risk, the implied team totals and spreads like you already saw, but we also include pace of play, pass defense, pass and rush percentage, where the production comes from, what time the game is, targets per game, rushes per game, percentage of snaps on the field, like everything you need to know in college football all in one place. And it's at SHIPIT Nation. And I told you I had a little surprise for you. For those of you that sign up, we had a couple of big winners in the NBA recently, I think just this week. So there's a promotion right now. You can get 50% off of your first month of all access with code NBA50. That includes Shiptimizer. That includes projections, ownership, the stone, rankings, sheets, core, everything you see on this screen. You get 50% off your first month of all access. That's $50. You get every single sport. That means you get NFL and college football. You get PGA. You get NBA. You get NHL. Don't tell me PGA is not still going. We have lineups out there right now. We're still producing content for swing season. MMA, I swear, we have shippers every single week. I don't know why you want it. This is the best time to get in with all of these sports going on and the success we're having in almost every street. If it's not college football 1 week, it's NFL. If it's not NFL 1 week, it's MMA. If it's not MMA, it's NBA. So it's a great time to get in. Again, you don't have to do the Shiptimizer if you don't want to with this all access, but you can. So you can do it over here without it for the $69 a month. And it does include the Discord too, where we have conversations on conversations. We help each other with strategy. We lift each other up when we're down. We celebrate when we're up. And it's always good for some humor as well. And then if you don't want to save money and you like $50 for the first month, honestly, I don't know why you wouldn't at this point, but if you just want a single sport, you don't want all that riffraff, I just like football. Guess what? We have a special going right now. You can get the rest of the season through the Super Bowl. We've discounted it. We've discounted our football package that includes, again, still the Discord community as long as you get the monthly. It doesn't come with weekly packages. So as long as you do monthly or better, and I don't know why you wouldn't do the rest of the season when you can get all the way through the Super Bowl, but you get college football and you get NFL, and you can also do the Shiptimizer. We're discounting it the rest of the season, like a mid-season special. So now's the time to get into SHIPIT Nation. Like I said, we've had some big winners. We had the Dirty Sheik get $100,000 hit last week. And obviously we got an MMA here with Hoop. Hamhock still killing it in the college football streets. I Am Robbins killing it in the college football streets. Paul Supple with a big NFL week last week. Like all of these guys, part of the SHIPIT Nation community. That's the one thing they have in common. Again, the Discord for me is where it's at. I love all the tools on the website, but having the conversations, having that community around you, it's the best experience I've had in my DFS career. So again, now's the time to join. Use that code NBA50, get half off of your first month of all access, whether you want the Shiptimizer or not. But most importantly, remember rule number 1, college football is fun. Enjoy the process, enjoy your lineups, enjoy building, and enjoy watching college football, and hopefully enjoy watching your lineups go to the top of those leaderboards. And even more, hopefully, I will see you there. But for now, we'll see you next week.